I'm about to start making the rear guards, but before I do that, I've been doing lots of little fiddly bits and pieces. The carburetors have all been stripped down and cleaned up, and the rebuild kits I ordered arrived. These are the kits for the vintage carbs. I actually ended up getting these through the Morris Club, the UK Morris Club, and it worked out to be cheaper than getting it directly from Berlin, the SU people. But it looks like they got them from there anyway, because the box it all arrived in had a label on there that was shipping from Berlin to the Morris people, and then I guess they just relabeled the box and sent it on to me. So they must be getting some sort of discount, I guess. The rebuild kit comes with everything. So it's got new shafts, a new jet, new throttle discs, all of the seals, the little pins, the little screws, and the gaskets. So with these, I should be able to get these carbs set up nicely. Now, one of the things it does come with is these new bushes. These are split bushes, and what you have to do is you need to drill out or rather remount the body of the carb to 8mm to fit those bushes in. And what you want to do is ream them out, but not all the way through. So you don't just ream straight through. You want to leave a little step on the inside here. So you have to ream from one side and then from the other side, leaving the little step so you don't get a leak around the throttle shaft. And that gets tricky to do because you need to have this alignment perfect. So what I've come up with as a way to do that is, if we look over on the mill, I need to get hold of a 8mm chucking reamer. Now there are special reamers you can get that let you do this job that have what's called a pilot on them. And so the reamer comes in two diameters, and you've got a smaller diameter that'll fit through these bush holes, and then the diameter you're actually trying to ream to. And I don't have one of those, and you can buy them. You can buy them for the larger size carb spindles, because these ones are 1/4 inch. I think the normal HS4s and things like that, like you'd use on the MGB, I think they're 5/16 from memory. Can't remember the exact size. So I've come up with a different way which I think will work, which is on the mill, I've bolted the body to this plate, and this is all held tightly in the milling vise. And in the collet, I have a piece of 1/4 inch, it happens to be aluminium because that's what I had, and it's a nice fit through the holes here. And I can set up the vise so that this will fit all the way through. And by doing that, it should come out the bottom. I now know that this is completely, the hole through the carb body is completely parallel to the axis of the mill. So with that all clamped up, what I'm hoping I can do is then you would wind this all the way back up, and you would fit your chucking reamer, the 8mm reamer, into the collet. None of this is moved, so this should still be all centralized. And then using the DRO for the depth, I can cut down exactly the right amount to not break through the body. And that'll allow me to push the bush into there. Once I've done that, I should be able to take this out of the milling vise, flip it over, reuse this, or probably reuse the actual throttle shaft, and then use that to line up on the bush that I've now stuck in the bottom there. So that should then still all be parallel, and then I can remount the top one and then insert the top bush. That's my plan at the moment. Then maybe there's a giant hole in there I'm not seeing, but I think that will work. So I need to order the reamer. I went through my collection of reamers, and they're all Imperial. For this, it's a 1/4 inch shaft, but you need an 8mm hole for the bush. So that'll be the next job on the carburetors. I did have some trouble getting the little levers off. These are the little throttle levers, and these are actually pinned on. There's a hole drilled through them and they're pinned, and this one was also soldered. So getting them off completely mangled what was left of the shaft, but you can see how much wear there is on that shaft, for example. There's a massive step there, so these definitely need replacing. I also had some trouble getting the little fuel float valve out on one of the carbs. This was my solution. It looks a bit messy, but good old number 8 wire to the rescue. So I ended up drilling into the body of the valve there, and then soldering that wire onto it to give me enough leverage to break that loose. That was the only way I could get it out, because the top of the hex was all stripped out, and I didn't have any sockets, or I didn't have any tools that could fit over it, because that normally fits. It threads into there, into that hole, which you can sort of see. The other small job I've done is I cleaned up the parts for the carbs, and I've gone through and I've zinc plated various bits and pieces. So this is a little choke linkage, the bolts for the fuel banjo to bolt the fuel chamber on, and the shaft in here, the little stud, So I zinc plated all of those, and that's pretty easy to do at home. You don't really need much. I just have a little plastic container, and you need some zinc sheets. And I believe in the States you can just buy zinc sheet easily from hardware type shops. It's not so easy here. This is actually zinc taken from really, really cheap dry cell batteries. You have to get the zinc carbon ones, but they're ridiculously cheap. And these were just D-cell batteries that I scraped all the goo out of and then flattened out the sheets, just cleaned them up. You can see this one's starting to be eaten away because of the plating taking metal from it. But the D-cell batteries are rather cheap. And I did notice this today at the supermarket. I think this was $6. So this is the cheapest lantern battery I could find, and I'm hoping this is inside a zinc casing. I figure it's either going to be a zinc casing, or there will be cylinders inside here, individual cells probably, and they'll be wrapped in zinc. So it was worth getting this to pull apart to see if I can get zinc from that. I've also been pulling apart the lamps I have. These may not be exactly the correct lamps, but they're what I've got, and they'll allow me to get the car on the road. I cleaned up the bodies, which were, I didn't get a picture of them before I started, unfortunately, but they were extremely oxidized and very green. So I used an oxalic acid bath to clean these up. I've stripped them all apart, so I've taken apart the mechanism that allows you to adjust them, which is made up of these plates. The little tabs hold everything in place. I opened them up so I could pull all the parts, take all the parts apart. So I need to fold those back over, because that holds everything captive in there, and that's what gives you adjustment of the angle of the lights. So these have also been zinc plated to try and protect them a bit. Everything will be covered in grease and well protected when I reassemble it. The bit inside here was steel, so I've sprayed all that with some cold Galv zinc spray, which is very zinc rich spray, so that should help protect all that. And I'll put some rust proofing type stuff inside there as well. I'm not sure what the best thing to use is. Maybe wipe it with fish oil or something like that. The reflectors are unfortunately pretty knackered. That one's not too bad. But you can buy through the 7 workshop new reflectors. So I've ordered some of those, and they'll be what I'll be fitting into these. The other various bits and pieces all cleaned up nicely. So these are little wire clips that hold the glass in place. They've all been zinc plated. These are little mounting bases, which I just sandblasted to get all the paint and crap off, but I suspect they'll just be painted black. There's brass nuts and things in there as well. So that's all little jobs, little bits and pieces that are just things I need to do to get the car finished and get it on the road. I also ordered the 2 reproduction stop lamps. I do have one. I've got a nice one, and I also have another one sitting over there, which is very beat up and very rusty and needs repairing because there are big holes in it and things. And I could restore that as well, but I thought instead of mucking around with that, let's get the reproductions and I can get them on the car and get the car on the road, and I can look at restoring things properly later on. Because I can't restore them completely original because I don't have the little plastic window for the number plate lamp part, and I don't have the correct rivets and things like that. So I know the reproductions probably won't be as good as the originals, but for my car, which isn't going to be used every day, I'm sure they're going to last fine. So that's all those little bits and pieces I've been doing. Procrastinating a bit from doing the guards, but that'll be the next job, is getting onto those rear guards, and I'll start thinking about how I'm going to do the stays, and also possibly thinking about the windscreen for the car. Other than that, there's not really that much more to do. Should be a quick job, but it's taken me 8 years to get this far, so it may not be done in the next few weeks, but hopefully this year is the year I get it on the road. We'll see.